All right, what's up? Welcome another open forum. The topics are, of course, listed in giant bold letters, so please don't come in with some other random ass weird topic. We're going to be talking about dispensationalism. We're going to be talking about the papacy. We're going to be talking about feminism, MAGA, Islam, Protestantism, atheism, you name it. Any of those above, you're welcome to Q&A with me, or if you'd like to pose a challenge, you can do so. You can just simply say, I'd like to challenge your position. I have the facts and the logic, to quote Ben Shapiro, to shut you down. Dyer, you're over. You're ended. You're wasted. All you got to do is step up, hit request to speak. I will bring you up also. And we just saw the Crowder episode just went up. So you head on over to Crowder's YouTube channel and you will see my 1 hour, 10-minute discussion with Gerald on a host of topics, including dispensationalism, including orthodoxy, including Hollywood, cults, all the classic topics. It finally dropped. It was recorded, actually, I think about 3 weeks ago. So I was starting to worry that they weren't going to post it, but it's up. So please go check that out. What's up, Ace Brazzi? Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to say something real quick, kind of about that. This whole reaction to the Morgan chick, like posting that picture or whatever.
Oh, her.
Yeah, but something real specific. Because I'm not gonna lie, I actually disagree with not necessarily with you defending her because I agree. I
Hold on.
understand
Before
why
you
you
say
did it.
something, let me explain.
Yeah,
First of all, I'm not simping for her because she's some chick that posts pictures on the internet. I know that.
yeah, no, I get that.
I
Yeah,
understand. What my view is that when people go to church, because my experience the first time I went to Orthodox church, everybody was raking me over the coals because I had shorts on. I was like, I wandered in there, it was 105 degrees. So is it better that I visited the church in shorts or that I had never gone into it? Now, that said, I did not follow that chick forever because I argued with her about her stupid Pentecostal views publicly. I have DMs where I sent her the refutations of dispensationalism and charismatic stuff. She never replied, so I never paid attention to her. So I wasn't simping for her, but I also like to say something positive about a woman or to be friendly to people is not simping. And a lot of these think that it is. They're just psycho. They're crazy. But feel free to speak your mind if you think I was. Now, it's also possible that because I don't follow her, I haven't kept up with like her history. Maybe she has a track record of like grifting or something that I'm not aware of. So that might also be a possibility here.
yeah, no, yeah. Anybody that was saying that you or like whatever other guys were simping, for giving a fair position. Because your initial sentiment of like defending, um, her not necessarily be. I don't necessarily see like too much wrong with what she was wearing. Like I get the
I
dress
didn't
was
think the
like,
dress was a big deal. I mean, all the
yeah,
clergy
no,
basically had the same position I had. So
yeah. So I never had an issue with that. But what I think should have happened, and I'm not trying to correct you or anybody else that did, probably should have just sat it out for one specific reason. And it's basically for what all of because you and Luigi called this out earlier. For every single last one of those trad cats, they came in and like were kind of bombarding her. There's a reason they were doing that. So, and I posted about this a few months ago. So us over here on the Orthodox side, we're gonna start dealing with what they've been dealing with for years. I'm gonna give you one good example. This Olivia Crowlins chick or whatever. This isn't like she isn't a nobody. She has like almost 200,000 followers or something like that. It's creeping up. And there was maybe at some point last year, she posted a picture. This like a lot of Catholic women were doing this at some point last year. They were doing it's like a little trend called like mass fits. Yeah, mass fit. That's what it was called. And she was veiled, but her dress had like a slit in it, like at the leg, and she purposely like pushed the leg forward in the picture to show off her leg for the picture. So she was politely corrected on it by plenty of like Catholic guys or whatever. Initially, it wasn't bad at all. Timothy Gordon, he jumped in, he politely corrected her too. Now, her reaction to it is what every young guy that is correcting Morgan knew exactly what would happen. She blocks if you correct her, she's gonna block you and tell you, don't look or whatever the case may be. they are not taking correction. And I'm not saying this is exclusive to young women. I'm not saying this is exclusive to women at all. Obviously, we have problems with young Orthodox guys coming in and wanting to build up little coalitions, like with the whole like the guys trying to Latinize and shit like that. I understand that's an issue in and of itself. But these women that are going to continuously do this, the reason I'm not, I have no intention whatsoever to give any correction to any of these women, politely or not, because I know what the response is going to be like 9 times out of 10. Now the Orthodox chick, Catherine, she's been at this for a while. I know she's a big follower of you. She seems to be like one of the only ones I know of that hasn't had one of these interactions before. She's got to be like the only one. And like I said, this hasn't been an issue for us over here on the Orthodox side. But when I see like when y'all saw all the TradCaths coming in, and maybe y'all thought they were being bad faith. They aren't being bad faith. They've seen this before. They've been dealing with this for well over a year at this point. And it's not just the Olivia chick. It's time and time
Okay,
again.
but here's the
Every,
thing, like from our perspective, it's not we don't have to like be freaked out and worried that a bad faith individual is going to try to sneak in, because what's going to
yeah, no,
happen is these people will eventually show their cards. And so in the case of say this Morgan chick, right, if and she put up today, don't worry, Orthodox, I won't go back to your church. Well, if she's going to make her decision on what church she goes to based on the reactions on Twitter, then she's not ready for Orthodoxy anyway. So my point is just simply that these things get taken care of in time in divine providence anyway. So we don't really have to worry about policing like which e girl or e thought tries to play Orthodox, because it'll eventually wear off and they'll move on.
yeah, I agree with that 100%, and that's why I said I actually think the best. Obviously, they're gonna be like plenty of guys or whatever that choose to criticize, critique, attack, whatever, whether they do it good faith, bad faith, whatever. Obviously, you can't stop everybody from doing it, but even like a fair like public criticism is kind of just a waste of time, because like you said, with her doing the whole don't worry about don't worry Orthodox, I'm not going like all. I mean, that's what I anticipated when she was initially getting pushback. Obviously, I saw what you said, I shared it, and whatever. So like I said, I don't even disagree with your sentiment, specifically with what you were saying, but it's probably just best to just leave it alone, because and again, I'm not even trying to be divisive between the sexes when I say this.
Yeah,
But
I don't even think it matters, dude. Nobody's even going to remember in a week. Everybody be
yeah,
on to the next thing.
yeah,
It
not
won't even matter.
yeah, definitely not this Morgan chick or like any individual thing. But if it becomes more of like a constant thing or whatever, then there might be some form of divisiveness within the church, or at least in the online community. Obviously, like, is this actually going to be like a ground level thing? Man, hell no. I mean, it's not going to be an issue whatsoever. At least not in my opinion. But that's pretty much all I had to say about it, man.
Thank you. I'm mute, dude.
Hey man, can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I had a couple questions regarding like sourcing when it comes to finding the full-on uh, position of the Orthodox Church on primacy. So, where would you look to kind of find that? Because I've heard kind of different
I mean,
things.
the last accepted statement that covers that in detail is the letter of the patriarchs from 1890 ish or whatever, 1895, 94.
Okay.
That's pretty well accepted. And um, I mean, the canonical position of the Roman bishop was always first among equals.
hmm
But beyond that, like, there's not really much. Like, what beyond that is the would be in question.
More so, I'm kind of an inquirer to Orthodoxy, but I'm relatively convinced. I've started kind of going to the parish and so forth.
Hmm.
But my Catholic friends have kind of sent me like Ibarra's book and stuff, and I've been reading it. And the biggest thing that I was a little bit confused on was
Hmm.
Ibarra brought up a lot of different statements from like different metropolitans and stuff.
Hmm.
Obviously, Patriarch Bartholomew and all that. They all kind of said different things about what primacy meant, and
Hmm.
like I couldn't find like a concrete answer to that. So I was just curious.
It's no different than the way that you see primacy given within jurisdictions. So, for example, the patriarch of Moscow has certain canonical privileges within his patriarchate, so that you can make an analogy to the Bishop of Rome having those kinds of canonical privileges were he Orthodox. So I will give you the most recent statement on this. I will send you a DM right now, and
Thank you.
it's the 1848 statement. So there's the I was trying to think 1890s, but it's actually 1848.
Okay, thank you. That was pretty much the
Yeah.
summary
Also,
of it.
remember too, a lot of times what happens, especially with people like Ibarra, is the idea of primacy is conflated with the claims of Vatican I. So they try to build up a case on the notion of first among equals, mouthpiece of the apostles, etc. And then they try to say, well, you see how this could then develop into Vatican I, or this idea that, oh well, the Pope had these powers this whole time, but he didn't really choose to exercise it until later on. But the burden of the proof isn't was there a recognition of a high status in the early church? Nobody disagrees about that. The burden of proof
Right.
is on the Vatican I apologists, and that's what Ibarra doesn't ever address, is the the universality, the autocracy, and beyond that. I mean, I think the kill shot really is just unum sanctum. Why would we have to confess that the Roman bishop's primacy is necessary for salvation in the 1300s, and then after Vatican II, it's no longer necessary? I mean, does that not seem ridiculous?
No, that absolutely does make sense. Yeah. And I think probably the strongest argument that you've made is the indefectibility of the Roman See.
Yeah.
So that I really do appreciate that. Thank you. That made a lot of sense.
Yeah, you'll notice that there's a Roman Catholic today actually who was saying that he's chosen to defend Vatican II and Nostra Aetate at all costs. So the real religion is actually just the papacy, and it doesn't really matter what It doesn't really matter what came before. It doesn't really matter about Christology, Trinitarian theology. You'll notice who's out here debating the Muslims, not Roman Catholics, because they think it's the same God as the Muslims. So the mere fact that we're out here doing apologetics shows, oh, well, we're actually doing what the church fathers did. Did the church fathers sit around just papal quote mining all day long? No. They did what we do. They debate the deity of Christ. They debate the Trinity, Christology, right? All the topics that you see consistently debated, we're out here defending those things. They don't do that because they surrendered the Trinitarian position a long time ago. Clearly. What's up? It's open forum if you want to talk about any of the topics listed. Hit request to speak. I'll bring you up. That was a great question. Thank you, JJ. And for those interested, you can look up the encyclical of the Eastern Patriarchs of 1848. And that's actually a response to Pius IX and where he was trying to take what would have eventually become Vatican I's definitions. Elusive, what's up, man? You, dude.
Hey there.
Yo.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Yeah, two quick questions. One will be pretty quick, just concerning the canon and when Protestants say, look to Jerome for their canon. I was curious on your rebuttal on that, and then I have a second question that's different from that. But
Well, why are we supposed to go with one church father in the fourth, fifth centuries canon? On what basis? I mean, if you're
okay,
gonna just say Jerome, well, okay, Augustine.
I see.
If you're a Protestant, on what basis are we supposed to choose Jerome over Augustine?
So they're just throwing out one name, and
Well,
then
they're throwing out one name because they think it's right because it's the Protestant canon. That's the thing in question. So,
you would just point to the Council of Nicaea, right?
well, what would Nicaea have to do with Jerome? What do you mean?
For the canon, what council was the one that?
No, the Nicaea doesn't do the canon.
Oh, okay.
For the Orthodox Church, canon of Scripture is way later. It's like sixth and seventh council. So
Oh, okay.
it doesn't really have to
Got
do
it.
with Jerome. So Protestants just think that you're supposed to go with the Masoretic text, proto-Masoretic texts of the Palestinian Jews. And then my retort would be, okay, why not diaspora Jews? If Jews are
Right.
going to determine the canon, why not Jews that had the Deuterocanon? Because that's the canon that the apostles used, the Septuagint has the Deuterocanon in it. So why would we not use? If you're going to go with the Jewish line of argument, why would it not be the diaspora Septuagint using Jews? Oh,
Right,
look,
because
and I've literally heard Protestants say, well, because they were closer to Jerusalem. So it's just like geographical proximity
yeah,
now. I mean, it's just they just come up with whatever on the
because
spot.
the Masoretic text was altered, right? Because they were
Oh,
losing
yes,
debates.
according to Saint Justin Martyr and Saint Irenaeus, they were already beginning to alter it because so many converts and Christians were using it to prove Christ. I mean, when we gave the talk, I gave the talk at the recent conference, and I'd read a bunch of Sirach again, and I didn't even realize all the references to the Holy Spirit, the person of Christ, all throughout Sirach, right? So it's like
Hmm.
clearly Christians would be making use of these deuterocanonical texts to prove, for example, early on in the book of Wisdom, you have a prophecy of Christ, right?
Yeah.
So Jews would be like, all right, scratch that.
So when the Dead Sea Scrolls lines up with the Septuagint pretty well, and sometimes
Correct.
they'll say the Masoretic text as well, but when they say that, do they mean the Masoretic text that was, because I've heard that it's like a proto
Yeah,
Masoretic
there was no
text.
Masoretic canon at the time of Jesus, okay,
Okay,
or the time of the apostles. So there's a legend or a rumor of the Council of Jamnia, but I mean that's like a couple centuries later, so
got it.
we don't really know.
My other question, off topic from that a little bit, is so like coming from a Protestant background, trying to figure out, I didn't really, I guess, dive into it, just kind of accepted it, my faith and whatever.
Excuse me, Jamnia is 90 AD, so go ahead.
Okay, 980.
Supposedly, but it's a theory.
I always heard the wages of sin were death, but I was listening to one of your videos about your explanation of Adam in the garden and the sin, and then your explanation of Jesus on the cross. And it's the first time I've heard that. Super fascinating, interesting. And I just wanted to kind of make sure I had that all correct, because you're saying Jesus was deifying human nature so we could make it to heaven, right? And I'm sure there's more because like
Hmm.
Elijah and Enoch went to heaven, I thought, in the Old Testament. And then, so I guess I'm just
Hmm.
trying to understand the original sin.
Well, they went to paradise, so
Okay,
they went to paradise. They haven't died yet.
got
What about it?
got it. So they didn't go necessarily to what we would consider.
They're not in the third heavens because they're not resurrected yet,
Okay, so and they're supposed to be the two witnesses that come back down in the
presumably.
presumably. Okay, um, and then the original sin, that's not necessarily passed down per se, or is that passed down in Orthodox
But the
view?
effects of Adam's sin are not the guilt of the sin.
Okay, the effects are, but not the
So,
guilt.
like, if I poison the village water with fentanyl, uh, the village isn't guilty of being drug addicts, but they experience the effects of that.
Got it. So then when Christ, so okay, awesome. So that's passed down. And now I understand the Elijah and Enoch better. So then,
Guilt is accrued by individual sin actions that when you specifically do an action that is against the Ten Commandments. That's according to James. That's what it is. That's what sin is. It's not a state,
got it.
right? There's no such thing as a state of being that is sin. That would be Manichaean.
Yeah. So we're not born and just instantly. It's hard to achieve, you know, to not be sinless, because we have the secondary effects of other people sinning around us that would probably inherently cause us to trip and stumble, right? And
Yeah, no, we're going to sin because we're fallen,
okay,
but we're not immediately sinners because we're fallen.
and that's what allows the infant baptism. It kind of ties into that.
Right. So infants have lost all the sons of Adam have lost the life of the Holy Spirit. They still have the image of God, but not the likeness of God. So the likeness is regained in the sacraments and baptism in the life of the church.
Okay. So Jesus dying on the cross, like you said in one of your videos, actually deified the human nature, so to say.
Now, the death on the cross is just the action of him going into Hades as the divine person to the soul that descends into Hades to preach the gospel to the dead, and then to destroy by tricking Satan the power of death in our nature. The resurrection is what deifies our human nature, not the death.
Oh, yep. And then that allows us to
Participate in his deified flesh, which is the Eucharist.
Got it. Okay, awesome. That helps a lot. It was just
Sure. Anytime.
appreciate that.
Those are great questions. Absolutely, man. Yeah, thank you so much. Good questions there. What's up, Hag?
Hey, have you seen a resurgence in Muslims to where an argument they'll use is then this thinking that all Christians affirm the modalist heresy because they'll say that we we Christians think that Jesus prayed to ourselves, to himself, and I'm saying to myself, no, we're not oneness Pentecostals. We don't affirm that. But no matter how many times we explain to them that, hey, we don't
Hmm.
believe in this oneness Pentecostal nonsense.
No, that's why I think monarchical Trinitarianism has been so useful and successful
What is
in the
monarchical?
what's the Orthodox Trinitarian view from the Cappadocians that we've used in pretty much every Muslim debate the last 8 years. So that is the Cappadocian Constantinople one teaching on the Trinity. The Father is the monarchia, the fount, the source, the arche of the Godhead, and He alone is the source, and that's why you have the Son generated and the Spirit spirated. So that gives a clear distinction in the person, such that when Jesus says, "There's none good but God," right? He's talking about the Father, and
Right. And
all this reference. Go ahead.
I think that would work when it comes to debating Muslims who are serious. But the thing is,
Right.
but when it comes to those slop accounts, like what is it called, like Halal Nation, or those low IQ Muslims like
Oh,
Daniels,
right, right.
or like Daniels. I didn't know his first name. I didn't know it. I didn't know that Michael from Inspiring Philosophy debated him. His first name is Daniel. What's his last name
Yeah,
again?
I debated Daniel Hakikachu too. You should
Um,
look up my debate with Daniel because it's just a really easy refutation by using the Islamic dilemma.
it's not even just that. Because here's the thing. Um, Basically, he's saying that that because we think Jesus is God, we think that the Jesus raped Mary. Like this is what he literally said. I'm saying to myself, but hang on a minute. Even though y'all don't believe that Jesus was God, Islam still affirms the virgin birth. So using
Yeah,
your
the
logic,
Quran actually says that the Quran actually says Allah breathed into her private parts, so it's even worse.
yeah. So like, good, like, I'm glad I'm under 21 because if I was
Yeah.
21 and I was seeing Daniel stuff, I would be an Alcoholics Anonymous probably.
Well, go watch the day I did with Sheikh Asrar Rashid, because he says the stupidest thing ever, in that he says that God could never be involved in anything unclean, like being born in time and space, because vaginas and genitalia are unclean. It's like, well, who in your view created the vagina, you idiot? So yeah,
Exactly.
he got quiet after that, but yeah, I appreciate that. Nick, what's up? I mean,
What's up, Jay? I wanted to. I had like experience probably 2 weeks ago. One of my clients, they had like I guess you call it like a men's retreat for their clients, and they wanted me to
one of your
come out to it.
Johns, one of your
What
Johns,
was my Johns?
your clients. Just a joke, man.
Yeah, okay. Um,
Johns are guys that visit prostitutes. It's just a joke.
oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, no, definitely not slinging that
That's
out
really
here.
hilarious. You didn't laugh at all.
It's just like
What's up? Go ahead.
it's good. So
Your
my main
clients.
thing was, yeah, the main thing was it was like a primarily Protestant evangelical kind of crowd, and I didn't really know the reasons why some of the stuff they did was wrong. All I could kind of go off of was I was like, we don't do that in the church, and I don't know where you're kind of basing that off of. And I was just wondering if I could go through some of them with you and get your thoughts on specifically what it is that's wrong about it.
Yeah, let's do a couple. How many is it?
Like three.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first thing was like the laying on of hands. So they had at one point during we were at the fire, the campfire, and they just some guy, they like had him confess that he's like not living up to his potential, and they're like, everyone, let's lay hands on him, just like the apostles, and they like all went, and like literally 30 dudes all around him with hands on him, and I was like, I don't think that we're supposed to be allowed to lay hands on. I think that's just for the apostles. I didn't
No,
know,
that's
but
called
that was crazy.
ordination. So Protestants just think that you're just supposed to just copy whatever's happening in the New Testament. They don't understand it's like a historical lineage and succession. It's not like a let's just DIY everything that we see in the New Testament.
Gotcha. So you said coordination,
No, ordination.
ordination.
Right.
Okay.
So this is where you get bishops and priests from.
Okay, gotcha. And then the next thing was the prayers and everything. Like now that I've been to enough liturgies, I mean, pretty much all the prayers
Uh-huh.
are either psalms or they are, just from the saints. But it just kind of seems like they're making up the prayers as they go. Like it's sensationalism. They're just who can be the most holy and kind of come up with
Yeah,
the
it's
longest
performative.
string.
It's very showy. Jesus says not to pray like that. So don't
Yeah.
pray, with your hands up at the street corner, like Scam Shamu does in every one of his streams for 30 minutes. So yeah, he says they have their reward. So God's not listening, they have their reward. But I mean, if you look at the Old Testament, David writes all those psalms as liturgical prayers. So they're psalms, but they're liturgical prayers in an ordered worship way. So worship has always
Yeah.
been liturgical. There's nothing wrong with extemporaneous prayers, but that doesn't mean that that's the norm, nor is that kind of the standard for the communal liturgical celebration.
What would be extemporaneous?
Just on the spot, out of your heart.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, there's
And then
nothing
that was
wrong
like,
with that. It's just like that's not what happens in the service.
yeah. And then the last thing was like over food. When we were praying over food, the Orthodox prayer over food's pretty quick.
Yeah,
And then this one, it's the same thing. It was just like who can say the most
right.
long strung together set of words of like how much the Holy Spirit is going to wash over us. Is that the same thing there? Like it's just, again, just sensationalism.
I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit odd, and I didn't really say anything while I was there. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't think, yeah, I was like, I don't really think I should say anything right now. This is definitely not the time, even when they were like, come on, Nick, get on
yeah.
in here. And I'm like, I don't want to just bust out. Well, actually, according to apostolic succession, I'm like, no, it's just this, whatever. Yeah, just move on. But yeah, thanks, Jay.
Yeah, man. Good questions. Let's see here. Wario, what's up, dude? Wario, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
Go ahead.
I wanted to debate one of the topics. Can we do like "Make America Great Again" as a topic?
Okay. What do you want to debate?
I think that Trump has generally done a good job. I think that he's been sort of unfairly tarnished or attacked by like I don't want to besmirch people, but like sort of the conspiracy side of the right.
Who exactly? Who's on the conspiracy side that you're thinking is
I mean, obviously
besmirching?
Candace. I'm not a huge fan of the Candace Owens,
Uh huh.
and there's some related figures. Even Nick.
Uh huh.
I'm not a huge fan of what he says. With respect to Trump, I mean.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest blemishes on MAGA or Trump are, the sort of unwavering Zionist support, flip flopping on Epstein. I mean, what do you think about those things?
With the Zionist thing, I agree in general that we need to end support for the nation state of Israel at some point in the future. And I think that the more rapid those steps are taken, the better. But I think that there's a balance of power issue at play here, where Trump's actually afraid to sort of go against the Israel cohort too quickly. I think he understands that his base doesn't really like Israel, and he is making sort of small overtures. The Iran strikes, I think, are a good example of not going full bore like a McCain or a George Bush would have. And then with the Epstein stuff, I actually don't think there's a there in the files. I think that
No,
obviously, I
no,
mean,
I didn't say
obviously
that
he's
there
like,
was. I said the release, like the flip flopping
yeah,
is on the
the release
release.
is bad. Yeah, the release is bad. That's politically it was very bad, and it's a bad look. And I think that he damaged the movement by doing that. but I materially, I don't actually think there's a there. Like I was saying, I think that it's mostly people getting worked up about fantasies they've sort of conjured in their own head.
About what?
That, like, it's basically what people think. This is my impression. You tell me what you think. Well, my impression that people think that there's this file, and that once the file is released, it's going to demonstrate that, you know, Hillary Clinton and all these people are involved in like literal, like eating children or something, or like having sex with underage prostitutes, which may be true. I don't want to say that it's not true, but I don't think that there is a file that's detailing the names of all these people, and that when released, anything would be able to be done that would materially affect the balance of power. I think that any files that had that information have been destroyed already, and that what the files contain is basically poison pills for the Trump admin, because I think his name does appear, not in an indicted way, but I just mean in a, they're mentioned, and so it would be politically disadvantageous to have them sort of paraded about. But he is doing that now, but and I think we'll see that.
Yeah, I don't really substantially disagree with that overall assessment. I think
Okay.
that's probably true.
Okay. Well, that's all I have.
All right. No, those are good points. Squirrel, what's up, man? Or woman or man? I don't know what you are. You're a two-headed being in the picture, so you're a binary Baphomet. What's up?
Think they will actually rebuild the temple, and do you think they actually already burnt the red heifer?
I've been hearing about the red heifer since I was a goober evangelical in 1998, so I take that with a grain of salt when I hear that news story. Many church fathers do speculate and think that there will be a rebuilt third temple, and that is the temple that Paul mentions where Antichrist stands up, and says he's God. But also, some of the other church fathers interpret that passage that the temple of God is something spiritual. Perhaps the church apostatizes and the Antichrist stands up within, the apostate globalist ecumenist church and says, I am the Messiah. So I think these, when the church fathers kind of differ and speculate, there's open debate and opinion that could be had there, but I don't really listen. I mean, again, I've been hearing the red heifer thing since the 90s.
Well, I believe they did burn a heifer, but they said it was a practice run. So I don't know if it was really a practice run or not, but
Yeah.
they did actually burn one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they need a temple, so I mean, if we see the Dome of the Mosque blow up one day and then suddenly Netanyahu's going to build a temple, then I'd be like, all right, I guess they are burning red heifers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good question. Brevin, what's on your mind?
I just had a quick question for you. My wife and I were introduced to Orthodoxy pretty recently, so we've only been going to liturgies for 2 months, and we've been going to an OCA church, and it's been really great. But
Good.
we also have a Greek Orthodox church near us. So I was just wondering what your thoughts on the OCA churches were currently.
I mean, there's no way to make a sweeping statement.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to judge it by parish. That's more important than the
Okay.
jurisdiction. But I mean, you do have to have some concern with who you're in communion with and what your bishop thinks, because it might be an issue down the road, right? Like, so if he's signifying that he wants to support ecumenism and the EP or something like you might want to be like, all right, maybe it's time to rethink this parish. But if it's not an issue at this point, I wouldn't worry about it.
All right. Thank you, man. God bless.
Yeah, glad to hear that you guys are investigating and pursuing. Caleb, what's up? You, dude.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, so earlier when you were talking about Christ dying on the cross is when he goes into hell to preach. Is that happening outside of time? So everyone who's ever died and went to hell is being preached to.
That's a little more speculative. I mean, many church fathers like St. Cyril of Alexandria or John Damascus. Well, let me take that back. St. Cyril says that Christ preached to all the righteous of the Old Testament. I think John Damascus has a passage where he speculates that it's all the dead. So it's kind of unclear. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but it is at least all of the righteous dead that believed, who were kind of looking forward to the Messiah, or in some way had the gospel preached to them in the Old Testament, including Gentiles. So I think probably at least St. Cyril is correct on that. Maybe John Damascus is too.
Do you think that would, like, include like uninformed? So I guess it's pure speculation on whether it's people from the future included there.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there is a comment I think from John Damascus to that effect. I don't remember where it is, but it's mentioned in one of Hilarion Alfiev's long essays, maybe his book. I'm not promoting him because he ended up being kind of scandalous person, but he mentions that in one of his books.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. A
Okay,
lot of
no,
that
I was
stuff we're
just
just not
curious
told.
about that.
One of the things I like about Orthodoxy is that it's okay to say we don't know. Like, in the Roman Catholic or Protestant world, you feel like you have to have some sort of answer to every single question. But like a lot of that stuff, we're just not told. Brandon, what's up, man? But thank you for that question. You there? Shout out to Cleve. Shout out to Alex. We had a great conference. Got to meet and hang out with Cleve. To Antiquity in person. We had a great time. Brandon, you want to unmute?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm great. What's on your mind?
Hey, so I just had a quick question regarding like if Protestant church members invite you to go to your church or invite you to go to their church. Like I've got a coworker, he's a pastor, and he invited me out to his church, and I don't necessarily agree with their views, and I don't want to be disrespectful to him, but I would just like some
It
advice on
really
how to
depends. I mean, you
approach
should
that.
basically just get a blessing from your spiritual father or your priest, because, for example, if you were invited to like creationist lectures or something, I think Father Stephen Rose talked about this one time. Like, a Baptist church puts on creationist lectures, and could you attend that? Yeah, probably. But like the what's not canonical is participating in the prayers of the other religions, or the worship of the other sects.
Gotcha. That's kind of where my head was at.
They can
He
pray
said
with
like
you, but you can't like go worship with them, because it signifies that we all have. It's just like it signifies a false indifferentism.
correct. That's kind of where my head was at. Like he said prayers like before the work day have started, and like I'll kind of
Hmm.
just say like the Our Father or something before I go to work. But I just I appreciate the help. I'll definitely consult my spiritual
Sure.
father
Yeah.
and priest.
Ask him about that, because there might be a situation where it's appropriate. What's up, Ben?
Hey, what's going on, brother? I wanted to get your opinion on and perspective on the whole America First movement. Me and a bunch of buddies, we're all members of the Orthodox Church, and we just feel like are a little suspicious about it in the sense that we don't feel like it's enough to address the actual problems that we face in America. So, yeah, I just wanted to get your perspective
Well, I
on
mean, I've
what.
always tried to have an open dialogue approach with anybody who has a lot in common with us. I'm still open to open discussions with Nick if he ever wants to do that. It doesn't have to be a debate. But I maintain the same position I've had for several years, which is just that I don't think that the TradCath Vatican answer is the answer. So politics only goes so far. Ultimately, people need to be grounded in a worldview. They need to be grounded in truth. That comes first. So yeah, I just maintain that same position. So as to how far they can go with it, I guess we'll see. Um, I just think it's going to be harder and harder to maintain as the papacy and the Vatican just keep doing terrible things. That as kind of your religious framework. So hopefully people in that sphere continue to swing over in our direction religiously, and then we can have maybe a more fruitful discussion on the political side of things. Mariah, what's up?
Hello.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Hi. So my name is Mariah. I am a traditional Latin Catholic, and I've been listening to a lot of your videos,
Mhm.
and it's kind of just made me kind of see all the holes in Catholicism, and it's kind of honestly caused a crisis of faith.
Well,
And
I understand. I've been there, so I hear you.
yeah, and so that was you kind of mentioned that in some of your videos, and I'm almost at a point where it's just like I know God is true and real, but just kind of have given up kind of. How did you get through that part?
It took me a long time. So, I was really hardcore TradCath for about 10 years. I was really into the Latin Mass, was really into Thomas Aquinas.
Mhm.
And, I'm going to just go ahead and be honest and say, like, it takes many years to kind of flush a lot of that out of your system. It's not all bad, obviously, but there's just certain sort of hangups and almost like obsessions, not with you necessarily, but with a lot of
Mhm.
tradcasts where you kind of get attached to certain modes and ways of thinking that aren't really the orthodox phronema or mindset, which that's just going to take time. So I would say don't get too worried or upset or anxious. Just take your time, and I would say if you're a trad cat, you would probably, believe it or not, transition better if you were to visit like a Russian Orthodox church, perhaps even over Go Arch or an OCA church, because
Hmm.
you're already used to. You said you went to Latin Mass.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're already used to like the the. I mean, Roadcore is a little more formal, I guess is one way to put it, than what you experience
Mhm.
in kind of the average OCA parish or whatever, even Antiochian parish. Not that those are bad. I mean, it may depend just
Yeah.
on what's near you, but a lot of people, I think, transition easier when they visit Russian Orthodox parishes, just because there is some similarities to the formal nature that you find in the Latin Mass. So I would say, take your time, visit, get to know the people, and you're going to notice, I think, in the Orthodox liturgy, that will be the main mode of healing for you, because there will be a warmth and a peace that you did not have in the Latin Mass. That was a huge thing for me, was experiencing and feeling kind of warmth and peace for the first time after so many years of this very cold, sterile, uh, you know,
Mhm.
trad cat
Yeah.
world.
And I guess that was hard for me, as we actually went to liturgy on this past Sunday,
Oh,
and I felt
nice.
almost it almost felt, this might sound bad, but Protestant. Like, it was very almost a little chaotic for me, and so
Almost what?
I struggled. It sounded it felt almost chaotic to me. But
How
I think it's just
so?
because I'm
How
oh
so?
I think just because compared to the Latin Mass, the order is just different, and you're just used to
Hmm.
things being a certain way, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The service itself, or like the congregation?
I wouldn't say the liturgy. That was not chaotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of Orthodox church you were at?
It was Antiochian.
Okay. Yeah,
Hmm.
Antiochians are usually a little more relaxed than like a Rocore church. So,
Okay.
but
I didn't know that.
Antiochian churches are good. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I would say just take it easy and keep
Okay.
investigating.
Thank
And
you so
feel free
much.
to call in or ask any questions anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Glad you're moving in that direction. Glitch, what's up? Hey, what's up?
Hey, so I've been going to an OCA church here recently, and we had an announcement at our parish that there was a men's night, and all the guys were talking about conceal and carry. And then there was a big announcement to basically our mass saying you can't conceal carry here. And I just needed, like, I didn't know, like, is that like an Orthodox thing? Because I'm Baptist and I'm used to, like, you know what I'm
I don't
saying?
understand. Like, you can't. They're saying you can't do it in the church.
Yeah, they're saying that you can't carry it anywhere on church grounds.
I guess that probably differs from parish to parish, because some parishes will kind of designate certain people to be security who may do that. So it just really depends. I couldn't. Do you know what jurisdiction it is?
OCA.
Oh, I'm sorry. You may have told me that. Yeah, that might be something that the OCA decided. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Thanks, sir.
Who made that decision? Like, could you ask? Like, is this a
He,
top down? The thing with the OCA is that it tends to be very top down. It's run kind of like a military.
yeah, I kind of noticed that.
Yep.
And no, it was the priest. And then they said that the bishop was the one who made the decision, but it didn't
Yeah.
make sense. and some of the other decisions they're making are kind of odd.
Right.
So
Are you in the? Do you mind me asking what region you're in? You don't have to dox yourself.
St. Louis.
I don't know who the OCA bishop that is, but if it's
Bishop Daniel.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. I know he has a lot of he favored a lot of Roman Catholic ideas, so that might be why. Nikon, what's up? Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, have you heard of Jack Hibbs?
I don't think so. Who's that?
So he's like the founding pastor, Chino Hills Calvary Chapel.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like a major dispensationalist. My mom's super sucked into his stuff. He has a book. I don't know what the name of it is, but he had Mike Pompeo do the foreword.
Oh, sounds
Which I
terrible
thought was
already. It sounds like a nightmare already.
Yeah, so I just thought I'm listening to your stuff. You know, I've been following your stuff for a long time.
Well,
but just listening.
John, you hear that? Shout out to John Adams there. JR, excuse me. I mean, yeah. So now we have the former head of the CIA doing the forward to Calvary Chapel pastor's books. Is that right?
Yeah, Chino Hills.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
Chino Hills. This guy Jack Hibbs. So he's got a huge following,
It
got
gets
millions
worse
of
and
people.
worse and worse.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I wasn't sure if you heard of him or not, but
Would
on
you
that
like me
note,
to, I could talk to Jamie, and if she's okay with it, I could like, what if I seduced your mom and got her out of that?
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just
That's
joking,
actually
dude.
my next question
I'm
was
just joking. Go ahead.
how can you seduce my mom out of this movement was my next question.
Dude, I can seduce
No,
any
really.
mom, man. I'm like a Mac, I'm like a mom master Mac. Mom Mac master, MMM, baby.
Yeah, bro. But I've been listening to a lot of your stuff for a couple of years now. I'm been inquiring to orthodoxy, so I'm not an expert at explaining the dispensationalist and versus the orthodox view. And I'm totally on board with not getting into arguments with your parents, right? So like what I've been doing with her is just kind of showing her cool things, and that's been my method.
That's probably
like,
a really
Mom,
good route, yeah.
yeah, it's like, hey mom, check out this cool. Like she loves a psalm, so I bought her a psalter, and she loved that, And it's like, hey, look at this cool thing. So it's like I'm trying to think about what the dispensation, because she keeps bringing things to me, and she's like, look at what Jack Hibbs is saying. Look at all this prophecy, and I never know how to like. I try not to shut her down. I try to just be like, okay, that's awesome. Like, thanks for showing that to me. So I was trying to think of like, is there I don't know if like a video or like a resource that would be perfect for her to just kind of look at maybe the history of dispensationalism or just like something that's very, I don't know, accessible. Like, I don't know if it's a video. I was thinking maybe showing her the thing you did with Crowder, maybe just a little clip of that, and just kind of just little. I don't know. I don't know if there was a good book
I mean,
or
that's
like a
probably
good. I
better
know
than
you
the
have like
4-hour discussion with Jim Bob. I mean, I doubt your mom's
right.
gonna watch that, but yeah, I just it's hard to it's hard to reach the boomers, man, or the Gen Xers, or whatever, with this kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe that. Yeah, it's weird because they didn't really title the Crowder thing about the majority of the talk was dispensationalism, and they titled it Hollywood, which I don't think it's going to get like way less views when you title it that way. Nobody cares about Hollywood, but if you titled it like dispensationalism wrecked, it would get like 1 million views. But yeah, maybe center that.
There was some Asian pastor that she sent me that was saying something about how so the name Yahweh, right? When you breathe, you take your first breath, you're saying Yah, and then Hui. And when you're and when you're and when you're stressed out, he was trying to make this sensationalist point about like when you take your last breath, it's Yah. When you take your first breath, and she's like, look at this, it's so profound. And I was just like, thanks, mom. Just like, trying really
I
hard
don't
to be
even know
like
how
that.
to
Actually,
refute that, dude. That's
well, I realized that he was actually taking God's name in vain because the
it
Tetragrammaton,
is
number
silly,
one.
yeah.
Well, it's like he reduced Yahweh to a sound, and no one is saying Yahweh when they're breathing in and out. So he reduced it down to a sound. So I think I'm going to talk to her and be like, hey, actually, this is taking God's name in vain if you really think.
I mean, it's just evangelical slop, dude. I don't even know how to combat that, but sorry to hear that. JJ, what's up?
Hear me again?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I have a couple questions. So, Orthodox position on original sin. I kind of went through 1672 Council of Jerusalem, but is there anything else that you would recommend?
And I have a 3-hour talk on it, so watch my talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Augustine, Calvin, Original Sin, 3-hour talk.
Okay. I'm writing
And I
that
will
down.
deal with every conceivable angle.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, what's next?
Also, you believe that the fathers taught the filioque, or at least the Latin fathers did? And I know.
No, I mean, Augustine did, but I mean, that's about it.
Okay.
There's one quote in St. Ambrose that's ambiguous, but if you read the Szyszynski book, that's pretty much his assessment too. He goes through all the relevant, used and controversial passages, and he came to the conclusion as a Roman Catholic that it's not there, so he ended up Orthodox. And we also have a 2.5-hour talk on that book too. So
Okay.
that is
Thank
on
you.
YouTube. It's a Filioque, History of a Doctrinal Development or Doctrinal Dispute by Edward Szyszynski. It's a good book. It's about 300 pages, pretty academic, but we did a talk on that. You don't have to read the whole thing.
Thank you. Also, from the Orthodox perspective, I know you did a couple talks about how the Greek Orthodox Church, or at least like Patriarch Bartholomew, has been kind of like compromised by the CIA and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of rationalize that from the Orthodox perspective? Like, how do you react to that? And
I don't rationalize it because the church has always had the state trying to compromise. They go back to the Arian emperors. They tried to take over the church. They promoted Arianism in mass. Go back to the iconoclastic emperors and bishops. They try to install iconoclast bishops. You go back to the Council of Florence. The state was trying to, and in that case, the papal state and the Borgia is trying to, Medici is trying to, influence and kind of control the church. So this is nothing new. It's not like, oh, spycraft in the church that just popped up in the 20th century. It's always existed. And one of the testaments to the truthfulness of the church is that it didn't end up subverted by the state. Which, if the church were a tool of the state, like a Marxist might say or something, like, well, then we would have been Arian back in the 4th century because the Arian emperors would have just easily taken over. So I think it's a testament to the veracity of the church that it wasn't subverted by church spies and the state. But it's unfortunate that, everybody knows about, KGB bishops, right? Like, yeah, of course there were KGB and KVD bishops in Russia. Did it destroy the church? No, it's still there. And the KGB and KVD, Stalin, they're gone.
And the last question I had was, so I've been able to attend liturgy at a Greek Orthodox monastery.
Interesting.
Yeah, the entire liturgy is in Greek. Obviously, I don't speak Greek, and I was just curious, like, how do you get the most out of that if that's kind of the main thing you have access to?
Well, I had a similar experience in the Latin Mass because I went to that for many, many years, and I just read along in my missal. So you just treat it like you're praying along with an English translation. But what you're getting out of it is the Eucharist. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, no, great questions.
Yep. Thanks a lot for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come back. I thought you were done. Go ahead, JJ. Finish your thought. I lost you, dude. Come back. I thought you were done talking. I was hitting the button right when we started talking again. Hugh, what's up? Yeah,
Thanks.
go ahead.
I really do appreciate like all the stuff you did on Arnet. So.
Oh well, thank you, JJ. Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Hugh, what's up? See, I'm
Are
not
you
being I'm
doing
not being mean today. Everybody's like, oh, he's so mean. Well, I'm being pretty nice to people today.
geopolitics today
About
or
anything
not?
you want, bro.
Okay. Have you heard of Minnesota's PFML law that's getting like set in place January 1st?
No, what's that?
The state is required to provide you with up to 20 paid weeks off for medical leave, family bonding, caregiving, safety, like any type of vague reasoning, and then they're paying for it with state taxes.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so I don't know if this
So
is
like a covert backdoor socialism or something.
it's like a covert like UBI thing, sort of. So that
Oh, yeah,
so like
right.
I don't know if this is like a slow rollout to that of being like, oh, your taxes go up, I think like
Well, a
1%.
lot of times they will test out these kind of future things in local areas, right? Like a lot of stuff that happens in the UK, they later try to roll that out elsewhere, or like California and New York, that becomes a a test ground for what they want to do, 20 years later in the rest of the country. So I wouldn't be surprised. And it's where is this?
This is so last year or 2 years ago in Minnesota, they started this thing called ESST, and you get up to 80 hours, I think, of like mental health leave that's paid that's paid like at your wage. And then now they set a thing to like the other half of the bill, I believe, was this like Minnesota. It's called paid family and medical leave law, which is like the other half of it. Um, I have a friend that works for 3M, pretty big company up here, and he was just terrified of this because like this is going to change all planning when it comes to like keeping assembly lines open. So that was kind of the bigger problem of it is if you have people taking.
Okay, well, all the men should just identify as pregnant
I know, right?
and then get the paid leave and invest it in Bitcoin.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, well, you either go to work and do your best, or do you like scavenge the
Crash the
corpse?
system, bro. Crash the system,
Yeah,
bro.
I know. And that's the other thing too. It's like, okay, how much is your money worth if I'm supporting you to chill with your kids? Which, chilling with kids is cool, but why do I have to pay for somebody else to do it? But yeah, but that was all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That's crazy. We should keep an eye on that kind of stuff because they usually roll that stuff out as like a test. Leaf, what's up, man? By the way, speaking of that guy's mention of like a UBI, soft socialism. So I finished Changing Images of Man, and at the end of it, they're like, "Yeah, the future's got to be some kind of soft new." They call it the new socialism. They're like, "We need a technocratic new socialism, but we don't want it to be like a top-down, brutalist 1984 technocracy. We want it to be like a cool, shaman bro technocracy." That's how the book ends. Gavriel, yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me? Oh wait, who's first?
One at a time. We'll go to you after him, Captain. Gabriel first. What's up? Go ahead, Islam.
Yeah, so do you have that book Critique of the Palmarin Creed in front of you, or there in your bookcase?
Bro, you gotta mute, man. If you're not talking. No, I don't have that in front of me. I'm not at home.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I have it right here.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to understand the paradigm that I guess Sunni Islam is. So, would you say that the different schools of thought?
Bro, one at a time, dude. Captain, just wait, man. Go ahead. I just took him out of here. Go ahead.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, would you say that, in your estimation, the differences between the, I guess, four schools, well, actually, not law schools, three, I guess there's three Akitas. Yeah, Akitas. Would you say the main? Okay, would you say that the difference between them is mainly semantical? That they're basically.
No, I think they have real metaphysical differences.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I was going to ask you if there were certain pages in this book that I should particularly focus on, but I guess I'll save that for another time.
Well, I mean, the introduction is 20 or 30 pages, and it will lay out a lot of the distinctives for, that flavor of Sunni Islam. Like it's going to say, we believe in basic empiricism, basic rationalism, atomism, and occasionalism.
Right. On that note, okay, second question was.
But if you remember when I was debating Jake, like Jake points out that Ibn Taymiyyah, like a lot of the other Muslims don't agree with Ibn Taymiyyah because he's a Salafi.
Right, Salafism, even though it's so much
For
against
example,
church.
like Allah has an uncreated foot.
Right.
A lot of Muslims won't admit that.
Right.
But Jake's like, yeah, he has an uncreated foot. And I like this is one of my favorite Ibn Taymiyyah arguments. He says, does Allah laugh? And he says, well, it's more perfect to laugh than to not laugh. So we know that Allah laughs.
Yeah, ironic that they're so much strongly against shirk, and yet they're basically anthropomorphists, right?
Correct.
The Salafis, yeah. or Wahhabis, whatever.
No, that's
Okay.
exactly that's exactly what the criticism of them is.
Yes. Okay. And on that note, second question: if we take away Muhammad and the Quran, would you say that the Islamic religion would only make sense in like a Neoplatonic paradigm?
I don't understand what it would be without Muhammad and the Quran. What would that even be? What do you mean?
Like if it was just because I understand the main thrust of critique against Islam is the Quran and the life of Muhammad, but if the Muslims were just a group that had these certain laws, and
I mean, it just depends because they would be more of a Judaizing sect, I
right.
think.
Okay.
Because if you read early on in the Quran, after like I forget what number it is, but after like the first 8 or 9 chapters, it turns into all these arbitrary like ceremonial laws that are obviously cribbed out of like Leviticus and stuff. So, and there's no explanation as to why.
Okay, so it's
Like why are we
essentially
supposed to follow these ceremonial laws?
right.
They don't have any purpose other than that Allah says to do it.
Okay, so it's basically Judaism.
Yeah, because a lot of Islam is literally from the Talmud.
Okay, all right, and then thirdly, not really having to do with the first two questions, did you see the protest by the Jake Lang guy who was in Dearborn, Michigan?
I did see people saying that he was formerly some sort of Israeli operative or something. I
Right.
didn't look into it. I don't know what the case is. Was he in prison for J6 or no?
Yes, and then Trump pardoned him. So,
Oh, interesting.
right. So
Okay.
I wasn't there. I'm the guy that called in a month or two ago, telling you about life in Dearborn, or the what's the word? The demographics of Dearborn.
Yes.
So, well, it's okay. So
You
you
weren't
were
there in J6 or Dearborn?
Dearborn. That was like last week. I think he did all this, and it was all over the news.
No, what I'm saying, when you say I wasn't there, are you talking about I wasn't at J6 or I wasn't at Dearborn? Or where were you not at?
I was not at Dearborn at the Jake
Gotcha. Okay.
anti-Islamic
Gotcha.
protest. You've mentioned before that you predict a race war that's going to be pushed by the powers that be. It seems as if maybe the Islamic issue may be where it starts, just based
Yeah,
on
I
like
think
that
that's
kind of
part
stuff.
of it. Yeah, because a lot of the people that are here are Muslim. So yeah.
So, like, I mean, because there's a lot of the Clash of
I mean,
Civilizations is real,
It
and
would be them before a bunch of cholos trying to fight people.
right. Yeah, I mean they've been there for decades, and nothing,
Yeah, right.
still thriving. Okay, so all right, I guess I'm just gonna read this book, check things out. There's, I guess,
which book?
The Critique of the Palmyran Creed by Fuda.
Oh, that, yeah.
There's there's Asharis, there's Atharis, and there's Maturides. So yeah, you mentioned at the beginning of this that the different isms and
right,
philosophical terms. So I guess I gotta get
Yeah,
familiar
that's
with
their
that.
different creed or like theological schools, but they also have different jurisprudence schools or fiqh. So there's different ways to do their jurisprudence and rulings and stuff too.
Besides this book, is there any other particular one for understanding the Islamic paradigm that you would recommend?
Yeah, I would get Gabriel Said Reynolds' book because he shows how it's just all copied and pasted from the Bible and the stories are mixed up. But it's also copied and pasted from the Talmud too. So it's not just Muhammad sort of cribbing together from the Bible. It's multiple sources, including Gnostic texts. And that's what's good about Gabriel Said Reynolds' book is that he shows a lot of the pseudepigraphical literature that it pulls from.
All right, and lastly, then I'll go.
Sure.
So thank you for that. And then what about from the Islamic perspective themselves? Just like kind of like this Fuda book. Palmer Creed, and other.
I mean, I have the Quran. I always call it the Quran study Bible, the study Quran. What's interesting about that is that it's done by Syed Hussein Nasr or whatever. So it's done by Sufis, but it includes commentary from all the schools and Akidas.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, citing that is not going to be useful to a lot of Muslims because most of them are going to like dismiss it. But it's useful for you to learn the various Islamic perspectives. Treem, what's up? Or excuse me, Mr. Goodfellow, what's up?
Hey, Jay, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man. Just finished up listening Louder with Crowder, your episode. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask you a question. So, talking to my family who are one is Pentecostal modalists, I've been using this argument, pretty much showing that there's multiple persons in the Trinity. Matthew 28, when Jesus says that all power and authority is given unto me. And I just asked the question, like, who gives him the authority? Just from an Orthodox perspective, I was wondering is that a valid?
Sure. I mean, I think there's even clearer ones though, because I know what they're going to say to that. They're going to say, well, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, in terms of baptism, is just one person. But I mean, just go to the John chapters 14 through 17, and in each of those chapters, there's Trinitarian interactions. So, how can it be the same person when it's identified as multiple he's? So, I think that's stronger for them personally. Michaela, what's up?
Good evening, Jay.
Hey.
Hey, I know I may be sometimes harping on the Catholic Church to Protestantism pipeline, and I'm not familiar with. By the time the Reform happened, how familiar was the average Catholic with even the existence of the Orthodox Church?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure they had heard of, the Greeks or the Russians, but I don't know how familiar.
Because it seems like, the Catholic Church really kind of softened up Christendom to allow for the reform to happen. And, I don't want to say like this was, the devil's long-term plan, but it seems like, with what, 400 or 500 years between the schism and the reform was a perfect time for the population of Eastern Europe to completely think that the Catholic Church is all there is and they have to be reformed. And there was no consideration of just, hey, let's just revert back to Orthodoxy.
I don't know. I mean, you've got Luther having some dialogue with the East. It didn't really go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, I think the other issue is that people forget that the Reformation was not just a theological nerd dispute. It was a lot of German princes who had geopolitical motives in terms of not being influenced by the papacy. So, what good does Orthodox churches do for German princes in the Reformation? Not much. So, they probably didn't care.
Good point. Thank you. And if I may bring up another unrelated issue, Jay, if that's okay.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on what to me is new? And that is the somewhat rehabilitation of Rasputin and the fact that his role is being reconsidered by many in the West and certainly some in Russia who, consider him still a saint and consider the mainstream history and reputation that he has as pretty much a slander on the truth.
I don't have much of an opinion on it. My graduate or undergrad advisor for my history degree was one of the two authorities on Rasputin. The other guy, I think, was at Vanderbilt, and they both had radically different views of Rasputin. I never really got into it. I don't have any set opinion on it. I don't know.
Very good. Well, thank you for listening, Jay. I enjoy your work
Sure.
and have a great rest of
Thank
your
you.
show.
Yes, good questions. Appreciate that. Nature, unmute.
Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, Thanks. So, I have a question about kind of like sociology or the way conservatives approach social policy. Because I kind of want I just thought, could you explain a very blanket way that conservatives speak about social policy? Because I don't consider what conservatives do is they look at Marxism as the opposing narrative or ideology, and it just doesn't. It's not something that one really considers in terms of social policy. So, is there a polar to conservative social policy that is sort of the populist idea of sort of this natural effervescence in the community that is not
I have no
Marxist?
idea what any of
It's
that
kind of like that.
means. What's the effervescence? What I mean, you talking about evanescence?
Oh, okay. So I think I'm approaching it from a theory of social policy, sociology. So Durkheim's idea of organic solidarity and
Yeah, I read
um,
Durkheim in college. I mean, I don't remember.
so it seems to me I don't know what stands as an opposing ideology that opposes Marxism because I'm tired of hearing about Marxism. And as a new conservative, I should say, I'm trying to hear
You know, I
conservatives
think
speak about
Orthodox
social policy.
Christianity opposes Marxism. It was the most persecuted by Marxism in the last century. So, probably the most oppositional to Marxism would be Orthodox Christianity.
Okay, great. So can we put like maybe let's take St. Augustine, maybe let's take some theological perspective and put it on top of Durkheim? Because Durkheim spoke about the
I mean, look, I
necessity
remember
of
him talking about
sacred.
anomie and
Yeah,
feeling.
okay,
Okay,
right. So what I think is that conservatives don't really have a position of sociology because they only oppose Marxism. And so I look
you're
at
talking
Durkheim and
about
I'm
modern,
wondering,
like American pseudo conservatism, and I would argue that America doesn't even have a conservative. There is no
okay,
real
good point.
conservatism in America.
Okay, that's very clear. That's very clear. Okay, so what is how do I look at
Orthodox
social
Christianity is
policy?
the only pre-modern worldview, and it
Okay,
also
very well,
has
very
a
well.
kind of social policy. I mean, look, you could look at Russia's idea of Sobernost. Okay, that's a contrary social policy to the Enlightenment, laissez-faire, atomistic individualism. How's that?
Okay, well, you lost me there, but I thank you very much for your time. What I'm trying to get at is Durkheim is obviously sort of because Max Weber is sort of in the middle and he's kind of lost. So it's really either Durkheim or obviously the false narrative of Marx. So isn't Durkheim really doesn't Durkheim really
Why
need
do we have to
a
go to these
theological
20th
basis on
century? Why
top
do
of
we have
it?
to go to sociologists for our social policy? I don't understand that.
Why wouldn't we if
I
we
mean,
already
sociology
saw
itself is like a
sociology as
made
a
up.
science?
It's a made up
No, it's
Rockefeller
not.
funded
No,
discipline.
Durkheim should. Well, I don't mean to argue with you. I don't mean to
I don't
argue with
care.
you. What
You
I
can
am
argue it.
suggesting,
It's a debate. You can argue.
what I am suggesting is that Durkheim hasn't been read. I'm suggesting that Durkheim
Well, I have read him.
really
You're not
has a
anybody who has read
theological
him.
basis. Well, I don't think that what I'm suggesting is that Durkheim isn't being adapted. It's not being played. Everybody's sort of looking
Okay.
at populism as being some kind of
So we come from a
grassroots narrative,
pre-modern
which was actually
perspective.
done.
All right, that's enough. Not enough. No more wine moms. Zora, what's up? John, what's up? I went as long as I could. My patient's friend to the empty. John, what's up? Jr, what's up? I'm you, dude.
The problem with Durkheim is he's a positivist. So he
I was gonna
comes up,
say, yeah, exactly. Like the whole ethos of like radical empiricism is not gonna work.
yeah, he's a Comte follower. So that I mean that's the thing is most people don't realize that both sides of a dialectic are going to employ um, different forms of like
Auguste Comte
radical.
was an illuminist, so
Yeah.
we're supposed to follow the latest illuminists.
Well, and positivism is just more and employing the social sciences. That's what she's getting at. She's getting, there's a book if she wants to read a good critique of it. Guy I don't agree with. I know you don't agree with on everything. Is Hayek has a book that critiques it. I can't remember the name, but but in particular, the social scientists are it's just more efficiency based.
Yeah.
You know, economics applied to. It's not real community.
Yeah.
It's micromanaged community. But
And also, no, the entire discipline of sociology is a creation out of the ideas of a goose comp, and it was funded by the Rockefellers at Chicago University. So it is
sure,
a creation.
absolutely. And another one too. Actually, I was cracking up at the guy. I know this is way back, but this was so funny. Is when I can't remember what you said, but I said, "Yeah, that's hilarious," and he didn't laugh.
Oh, and I said the Johns, and he said his clients, and I said, "You talking about your Johns?"
Yeah, and then he's
He's like,
all,
"Yes, that's hilarious."
"That's that was the fun."
The most deadpan. That's
I
hilarious.
know that was the funniest response I've heard in a long time. He's all, "Wow, that's hilarious." Anyways,
Anything else on your mind, John?
yeah, real quick. So something I was reading in some books recently. This is kind of interesting. Is when dealing with the Pentecostals and the dispensationalists and all that type of stuff. By the way, Jack Hibbs, he was a naval officer, and he has a military intelligence. I don't know exactly what military intelligence. I don't know if it's him or his dad or something. But somebody in his milieu is military intelligence, and then he has this weird, charismatic story where the reason he was able to be brought into his, pastorship was because he was like his mom tried to abort him,
Oh
and
wow,
so
that's
he's
crazy.
used that as kind of the hook for his, you know,
His prophetic ministry.
yeah, his Calvary Chapel, um, which a lot of the stuff like with Calvary Chapel too is there are some Calvary Chapels out there now that are Skittles affirming.
Wow. Now remind me, John, are they all pro charismatic or some or none?
So the charismatic split between the two of them, like the
Is
Calvary
that the
one,
vineyard? The vineyard comes out of that.
yeah, because Lonnie Frisbee was the charismatic. Chuck
Oh, I
Smith,
see.
what Chuck Smith comes out of like Amy Semple Foursquare Gospel. So that's what Paul Kane,
Yeah.
CIA guy, that's where he comes out of, is like a controlled version of the Foursquare Gospel. But yeah, when he lets Lonnie Frisbee in, and Lonnie Lonnie Frisky,
I was
no,
gonna say, lets him in what? His butt?
no, when he starts later on, he starts like flopping around on the ground, and Chuck
Right.
Smith wasn't down with that, and then
Oh, he didn't like that.
that's when they start the vineyard, because
Never go full Benny Hinn.
no, it was the other guy. His name was David Wimard or something,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when they split off and start the vineyard, because the fruits of the spirit's got to be recognized in everyone.
Yeah. Right.
But here was another thing. There was a point back in the 1800s, 1900s, where American Zionists actually wanted Israel for the Jews more than actual Jews wanted it.
No, that's true because of the just debates about where they were going to have a Jewish homeland, right? Or is that not related to that?
No, that because what was happening is the zeal within dispensational theology.
Well, they thought it was an end times thing, and like the Rothschilds, if you
Yeah.
read, like they didn't really care about the end. They didn't think about it like an end times thing.
No, but feeding off of that frenzy of end time stuff, they're kind of like, hey, end times can't happen until Jews go back to Israel to build
Right.
temple. So we've got to make this. So there was this. So a lot of the incredible zeal for moving Jews back to Israel comes from American Protestantism, just in
Right.
general. And
Wow.
so people are often confused. A lot of people might be confused, and even like Protestants themselves, who kind of wake up to the fact, like, hey, wait a minute, I never noticed that my pastor is a Zionist. It a lot of people don't know that actually American Protestantism is kind of born out of a zeal for Zionist stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to make that point that it's
when you
ingrained.
say American Protestantism, you mean modern evangelicalism, because
Yeah,
American Protestantism, like
yeah.
a lot of the Protestants weren't Zionists, like the mainline Lutherans and Presbyterians weren't Zionists.
Yeah, I think somebody might even make a case subtle. I wouldn't say this particularly, but I mean, kind of the Calvinists are kind of Philo-Semites in a way. But
But that would not be Zionism, because Zionism, specifically is a historical kind of movement that, Calvinists would be, they would say it's heretical.
I agree. I
think you're right. Like the Puritan idea of America on a city is a kind of a rip. It's like a Judaizing idea.
Yeah, and then like I mean they're pretty Calvinist, but but actually they would not associate with Jews themselves, but they would. I think once Protestantism moves forward from Puritanism into the 20th century, then that's where you get that idea of, hey, maybe we can kick this thing into high gear and make the apocalypse happen. And
yeah, but again, that's more within evangelicalism,
right?
right? Like
right.
the main. So what happens with the mainline churches is they go from classical Reformation teaching to just straight up liberalism, where they don't even care.
Right.
Right, like PCUSA. I mean, they're probably gonna and Liberin ELCA or what. They're probably gonna support like Hamas. So, but then the evangelical world, after fundamentalism, they eat it up. They eat up the whole, end time Zionist stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't distinguishing between the two properly there, but I was making the jump from Puritanism to evangelical because they both kind of have the same lineage. Like
Right.
Once you get into the liberals kind of break off from Puritanism. They don't even want to have anything to do with it really. But
Right.
but yeah. Anyways, I'm sure somebody else wants to talk, but I was just making that.
The 5 fundamentals, son.
Yep.
The 5 fundamentals.
Yeah, another
We
one.
believe.
Another one too is this guy Charles Parham, who's kind of the big starter of the Pentecostals.
Mm-hmm.
He was not only a Zionist, he was also a white supremacist.
That's a weird mix there. Yeah, that's crazy.
And he believed in British Israel stuff too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was he also a creeper?
He was a creeper and
I thought so.
a Skittles man.
Exactly. I knew it.
So he was.
It's funny how these things go together, don't they? They seem to.
He had it all. He had it. We were not lucky enough to be in the time of him to go to his church and see how funny it would be.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I figured you would know about the Hibbs guy with the Calvary Chapel stuff, but it's not surprising that Mike Pompeo wrote his foreword to his book.
No, like I said, he's got some sort of he's in the he was in the Navy, and he's got other people who are
in the Navy.
Basically, there's a bunch of Calvary Chapel ministers that are
like naval reconnaissance.
Yeah, they're all associated with some form of military in some way, shape, or form. So it seems like it's a military church at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, as you know, California is basically a military state, military industrial complex state. So.
Yeah, you got to remember too, the Jesus people. This is the one thing that originally bothered me about it when I started thinking about it, and then when we subsequently talked about it, was I couldn't get past the idea that they featured the movement on the cover of Time magazine, because even if Time magazine wrote a quote unquote hit piece about you, it was actually a promotion. So
yeah,
that's what they did with Jesus people, and
right.
And that's how it grew. Really, how it grew so big is because the media gave it its full attention. So you'd have
the media was a lot more centralized and controlled back then, for sure.
Yeah.
Zora, what's up? Thank you, John.
Yeah, brother, thank you. A quick PSA for the listeners. Every time you go into a space, folks, remember to like and retweet. I was going to say retweet, but retweet the space. And Jay, there's been some glitches, brother. So if people come up, they probably can't hear. It happened to me a couple times. But I had a question for you, brother. I wanted to know what would be your best arguments for and against sola scriptura, and if not sola scriptura, what is the proper interpretation or direction to go as a Christian? Someone that's looking into it more.
Yeah, I mean, the word of God in Scripture is not itself identified as always the written text. In fact, most of the time in the New Testament, when Peter talks about the word of God, he says that was preached to you. So it's the oral teaching of the apostles that is the word of God in a lot of those New Testament passages, but also the scriptures themselves. I have an essay at my website. You can go find it. The biblical case for tradition. The scriptures themselves point to tradition as having a crucial role both in the Old Testament and the New Testament in terms of the parameters of what is the Word of God. And then the canon itself historically cannot be known or determined apart from the tradition of the church. So notice what I'm saying there. Let's listen and be very precise and clear, because people hear this and they misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that people couldn't recognize what was, from God prior to the 7th century. I'm saying that we don't have access, for example, to Paul's autographa or Matthew's gospel, other than trusting the tradition of the church to pass down this book or this codice or this collection that is, quote, Matthew's gospel. And how do we know that it's Matthew the disciple and not, some Gnostic writer or some pseudepigrapha or whatever? Because every one of the Gnostic texts also says it's the Gospel of Thomas, right? So the knowledge of apostolic authorship is intimately bound up with tradition, as well as things called lectionaries, which are the daily readings. That was a big part of what helped determine canonicity. So when you actually get into sort of the nitty gritty from books like Formation of the Christian Biblical Canon by Lee McDonald, or F. Bruce's book Canon of Scripture, two famous, Protestant scholars that wrote on the history of the canon, they will admit very frequently throughout those books that the tradition of the church played a crucial, indispensable role in the formation of the canon. For me, that was kind of the end for sola scriptura for me.
That's awesome, brother. Thank you. And I think the proof of the pudding is in the name, where it shouldn't only be scripture, like sola scriptura, but there's also more things to go along with it. And you very clearly laid that out for me. Thank you. Last question, Jay. I'm kind of getting ready to tackle these CQ guys, like the Adam Green crowd.
The what?
They call themselves the
Oh,
CQ.
what does that mean? Oh,
Christian
the Christ
question.
question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Their biggest
Well,
argument.
if you
Yeah.
watch Jeems' debate with Adam Green, and if you watch Dr. David Patrick Harry's debate with Adam Green, like Adam Green doesn't have any, like he's not able to really debate. So it's really just a lot of like conspiracy theorizing and that kind of stuff. It's very weak.
Awesome, brother. I saw the one with Andrew too, Andrew Wilson. So thanks a lot,
Oh,
Jay.
I forgot. That's
Yeah.
right. I forgot he debated. I didn't know it, but I mean, if you, in the Coattail debate, like he doesn't even know what fallacies are. Like he's like, what is that? Buyers, what's up, man? It's like Bryson Gray level. Fallacy, what that is. What that is. Buyers, what's up, man? I'm mute. So the
Hey
reason
guys,
I was hold on. So the reason I was saying
go ahead.
about, I understand that when people come up, initially they can't hear, there's a delay or whatever, but that's why I always say when you come up, just go ahead and unmute. But go ahead.
Oh, hey guys, I'm sorry. I just joined the space, so I don't know exactly what all you were talking about. But it sounds like you were talking about some of the
Anything and
Bible
everything.
history.
Sure,
All right.
anything and everything.
Well, here's a little fun fact that I just discovered maybe 2-3 weeks ago, but I think this is pretty relevant. Of course, the King James Bible was printed in 1611, but King James reigned in England from 1603 to 1625. Now, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in 1620, and they fled England for religious freedom. And so they were literally fleeing King James. And to this day, there's still 4 Bibles that are held in museums that came over on the Mayflower. And every single one of them is a Geneva Bible. And I think it's pretty interesting that, like, the most conservative of Christians that you find in the United States, for the most part, use an old King James Bible. And that's the exact guy that they were trying to get away from.
Yeah, when I was the Calvinist, we used, my pastor had an old Geneva Bible, but that's itself a bad Bible because it's not the Orthodox Bible.
I don't know much about Orthodoxy. From the outside looking in, it looks like it's a lot of ceremony that is similar to Catholicism, but I don't know much about their doctrine. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. Good. No, hold on one. Yeah, I mean, well, the early church immediately adapted its worship service from the synagogue and temple liturgy. So the early church had ceremonies, and you can see that when you read the first, second, third century church fathers who immediately succeeded the time of the apostles. One thing I didn't mention to that previous guy about sola scriptura, if you look at the New Testament, it doesn't give you a worship service. But if you read Leviticus 11, God seems to care quite a bit about how he's worshipped, such that he, kills Nadab and Abihu for making it up. So the apostles did give a worship service, a pattern of worship. It's just not written in the scriptures, and that's one of the key proofs, I would say, of the validity and necessity of apostolic tradition.
Interesting.
Thank you for those comments. Yeah, my Calvinist pastor used to use the Geneva Bible. I think, by the way, if I recall, I think the Geneva Bible even has the Deuterocanon in it. Which is funny to me. But Ozzy, what's up?
Much good. How are you?
Great.
I've recently started inquiring, and my girlfriend's a converted Mormon. She converted from Mormonism to non-denominational Protestantism. And one of her hangups is kind of the idea that anyone, she keeps saying, I won't accept anyone telling me that I don't know God, that she hasn't had spiritual experiences. I was wondering if you
Okay,
had.
well, just say, how do you know God's not trying to lead you into the deeper relationship with Him through orthodoxy? Just frame it like that.
Okay. Yep. Thank you
And
so much.
you can ask questions like, well, how many churches did God set up? You know what I mean? Like you can frame it in really simple kinds of ways. Unmute, Kyle.
Hey, I appreciate taking my question. So I have a quick one, and feel free to tell me if I'm dumb, ignorant, or if you already talked about
You
this and I
are,
won't
but
take
go ahead.
offense.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
So with
Just kidding.
me being agnostic for about 20 something years and inadvertently coming back to Christ through just self-education, if correct me if I'm wrong, this is the ignorant assumption. You're Catholic, right?
Orthodox.
Orthodox, okay. What, in your opinion, me being, best I could say is non-denominational because I don't like to put anything as a gatekeeper into Christ opposed to just Christ in and of himself. What would be your best elevator pitch to go towards the Orthodox aspect or the Catholic,
Well, if you
more or
read the
less
New
where you
Testament,
the
Jesus
church?
established a church. He didn't just say, good luck, DIY, here's your Bible. He
Well,
established a historical church, the 12 apostles who go out and establish churches within the Roman Empire. Paul says to Timothy, I laid hands on you, you lay hands on men after you who are good and faithful, and the Holy Spirit's transferred through the laying on of hands. So that's a historical succession. Acts 1:8 says the episcopate when Judas dies, the episcopate is replaced. So that's episcopal or apostolic succession. And when we read the first, second, third century church fathers, they have the exact same perspective that they're the successors to the apostles. So that's a very quick pitch.
so my only question to that, and I guess would be the lack of a better term, I would say, is turn off to the more where you focus on the church. I feel like too many in the church or that go to church, not necessarily the idea of church in and of itself, but that manage it, end up acting as a gatekeeper. And I was wondering if you is that common practice in your
Why is it wrong
experience?
to have gatekeepers? Maybe God wanted gatekeepers.
Not in a I appreciate the church in an idea in a way where you could reserve, or I should say preserve all that matters. But in terms of gatekeeper, like, oh well, you don't get to worship Christ unless it's my way. I found a lot in churches uh, tend to, in more the classical
Okay,
sense,
but hold
tend
on, hold
to
on.
lean that way.
Okay, but in Leviticus 9, excuse me, 11, does God say, Nadab, Abihu, that was really cool the way you guys like got creative with the incense and all that. That was sweet. No, he kills them because they made up their own way to worship. So what we think that there's like a DIY approach to how we worship God.
Oh no, this is me coming in completely ignorant and like a newborn butt naked baby. Is just coming back to
Well, my point is
really.
that what you're saying rests on assumption that there isn't like an established liturgical tradition of how we're supposed to work, and that there aren't judges, you know, and people who are appointed to kind of make those decisions in the church with authority. So, you know, evangelicalism, Protestantism, non-denominationalism is built on the idea that authority is somehow antithetical to God, but it's not. God established authorities all throughout history. Why, when Jesus comes, would he then not have authorities in the history of the church?
My only guess, and again, this is
I mean,
based
that would
on
be
an
like
ignorance.
anarchy.
Yeah, no, that's true. My only guess would be just based on he sees how failed we all are, that he simplified the rules for even us dung slinging monkeys would be able to kind of comprehend and obey.
Well, I mean,
That
if you
said,
look, well, the problem with this is that it's not taking into account Pentecost, right? So Acts 2 is the empowering of the church by the Holy Spirit, and that's a change. That's something new in history. So prior to that, you could argue that the work of the Holy Spirit was limited and not as expansive and extensive and, you know, as explosive as it is post Pentecost. But, you know, Jesus says, I will be with you till the end of the age. I will not leave you. I will not forsake you. The Spirit, when he comes, he will guide you in all truth. So there's a historical lineage that I think Protestantism just kind of skips. It's like they read that and they think, oh, that's talking about me right now. It's like, well, there's a historical lineage that's actually applying to up to you. You can't, you know, get in the time machine and go back and experience the day of Pentecost, you know, without the history of the church that goes back to Pentecost. Does that make sense?
yeah, well, as much as in my ignorance it can. And I just wanted to say I've recently been turned on to you from listening to your Hodge Twins podcast, and I very much appreciate the way you articulate yourself and the knowledge. And
Sure. Well, appreciate that, Kyle. Yeah, I'm going to have to go, but I appreciate your comments and questions. And, you know, you could check out, there's a great documentary called The Icon on Orthodox Christianity, the history of the church. I would say check that documentary out. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much. Really
a
good
great
questions
one.
tonight. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.